Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Tampa Bay Real Producers podcast, powered by Top Producers Nation. This, of course, is the podcast that is made for top producers, with top producers, and with none other than Tampa Bay's real producers, such as our guest today. We have Mr. Nathan Shirk here in the house. What's up, Nathan? Do people call you Nate Dogg by any chance?
Yeah, I got all sorts of stuff. I got some people whose kids call me Big Nate. You know,
there you go, Big Nate. I have a couple Nathans that have been friends of mine over the years, and for whatever reason, we always go down the road of Nate Dogg. It just seems like it. I
don't refer to myself like that, but
there you go. There you go. So you might recognize Nathan from our most recent issue. His article is right here, actually, as you can see. Nathan was our featured agent in our June 2024 issue of Tampa Bay Real Producers. And so there's a pretty cool background with Nathan coming from New York, and he has a football coach background, so we'll dive into that right now. But why don't we get started, Nathan, with that for people who might not know your story or anything really about you.
Sure.
So, I know you grew up in New York, so we'll talk a little bit about that, and then how you eventually got yourself to Florida, and we could talk a little bit about your football background and what that was all like. So why don't we start there?
Okay. So I wanted to coach high school football. And right out of high school, I started coaching, and I was like, all right, how can I keep coaching? But coaches in New York don't make a lot of money, so I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a phys ed teacher.
Okay. Oh, they really make it big.
Yeah. They get paid the same as a chemistry teacher, all right?
Right, there you go.
So I was a teacher for a while and a high school football coach for 8 years. And then New York State had budget cuts come through, and they cut the last position from every department, and I was the last guy hired. So they cut my teaching position, which was at the time a savings of $28,000 to the district.
Wow.
And they cut
a good month in real estate, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So they cut my teaching position, and I still coached for a while, but one of my players, his mom was a broker, and she's like, Nate, get your license and come work at the brokerage.
Okay.
Which that brokerage has since been bought out. But
and this was in Western New York,
This is in Western New York.
What town was it?
Batavia, New York, right between Buffalo and Rochester.
Okay.
I got my license, and I started selling real estate in New York for about 3 years. And just when that started to take off, I had just gotten married. It was cold. My wife didn't like the cold, so she's like, "We got to go." So I said, well, find a job. She found a job at USF, the St. Pete campus. Drove her down here in her car with a bunch of clothes. She stayed with her aunt and uncle. I flew back home, packed up the house, sold the house, moved down here, and we got an apartment. And that was
that
the
quick,
start
huh?
of the Florida journey.
Wow.
Yes.
So what made you pick this area?
Familiarity. She knew the area already.
You said she went to USF?
No, she didn't. She worked at USF, the St. Pete campus.
Gotcha.
So her uncle lived in Madeira Beach. Her parents had snowbirded down here, so she was familiar with the area.
Okay.
And I was open for trying anything. So,
where did you go to school?
College?
Yeah.
Brockport.
Is that Western New York?
New York, yes, Brockport. It's a state college.
Did you plan on staying local for most part, or did you think that Florida was in your cards one day?
No. If the school would have never cut my position, I probably would have never left.
So you loved what you did, even though the income wasn't great.
I loved it. Yeah. It was awesome. I still miss it sometimes. I don't know if I'll ever get back into coaching, because maybe as the kids get older, but it's very time consuming.
Sure.
And with the way parents are today, it can be a bit more headaches even than I had to deal with. So
did you view the coaching role as kind of your main job, and then the phys ed teacher as a secondary, or vice versa?
I viewed the developing the relationships with the kids, and being a mentor and a role model as the main job. So football was my main coaching thing. I coached some other modified sports. I was a coach on the varsity staff. So yeah, I guess I would say I viewed football as the main job, and then the teaching was just how I got paid.
Did you play football?
I did.
Okay.
In high school, not in college.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
So Nathan, by the way, brought me a gift here for the podcast, and it's a beautiful, simple hat. No bad weather is what it says. So I asked him what that meant, and spoken like an ex-football coach, talking about, the mentality of no such thing as bad weather, right? And so if you want to elaborate on that, you can. But I think it was cool because when I think about great football coaches, I think of people that know how to shape people's attitudes, right? And obviously your job is to get maximum effort out of your players every game. And of course, our own mentality and our attitudes are going to affect the amount of effort we're willing to give,
Yes.
in that moment. And so great coaches find ways, even creative ways, to be able to create the right environment that produces, the best desired results, right, out of their teammates. And so this was something that resonated with you, I guess, was that motto?
Yeah, so it was a book written by a Norwegian or a Scandinavian lady who, she said there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. And the premise was to get your kids outside. If it's raining, put a rain jacket on them. If it's cold, put coats on them and just get them outside. And so I kind of took that. I was probably listening to a podcast. And I was like, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad attitudes. We were with some friends on a walk and it was raining outside. And I just said it randomly and it kind of stuck. This was years and years ago. Like you could still have a good time if it's raining. The weather doesn't behave. It's just your attitude with the weather. And the same thing about problems in life or football, whatever, somebody gets hurt, like who's the next man up.
Yep.
Just having a positive attitude and mindset and things just happen. They don't need to be good or bad. They just are things. And then you have the opportunity to handle that in a positive manner.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. There's an old formula that I was taught years ago, and I can't remember, it might have been from a book that I read or maybe even like a Tony Robbins seminar or something that I went to. It was E equals R plus O, I believe is what the formula was. And hopefully I'm not butchering that, but it was the idea that external experiences, right, or things happen that we can't control, but what we can control is our responses, to that. Plus, of course, what it was external situations plus our responses is what equals our outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the O component. And so it speaks to what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Things are going to happen, especially in the real estate world on a regular basis. Interest rates go crazy. Lead flow dries up. Lead flow goes crazy. NAR drops a different settlement on people, right? Like things occur that you don't really have control over. But what are you going to do to respond to it? Yeah. And the top people, I think, respond in a very positive manner. And I think other people get freaked out a little bit by certain things.
Yeah. For sure. The book also influenced my decision. Have you ever heard of Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
Yeah.
So that was I reread it every year.
Yep.
And that was a very powerful book for me to realize, like, people went through these horrible situations in the Holocaust.
Right.
And you can have everything taken from you except for your attitude and how you go about handling that situation.
Yeah.
So it really spoke volumes to me, and that's how I try and live my life.
It's awesome, man. It's a very powerful lesson, and I think a lot of people struggle their whole lives and never really learn it. It's one thing to hear it,
yes,
but then to actually have it influence how you act is a totally different ballgame, for a lot of people. When
something bad does happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can still choose
what are your habits? Where do your triggers look like, and where do you initially go emotionally?
Yeah.
And I think that definitely separates a lot of top achievers from other people. So that's awesome, man. So how long were you an agent in Buffalo or New York area before you came down here?
About 3 years.
Okay. So were those successful 3 years, you would say? Was it a challenge for you to learn the real estate business?
Towards the end, it was a shout out Russ Romano, my mentor back in the day. So the beginning, yes, it was a challenge. And in New York, it's like Florida, you can close a finance deal in 21 days.
Yeah.
In New York, you're lucky if you hit 60 days.
Yeah. We actually have a Buffalo Real Producers and a Rochester one, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Up there, run by a good friend of mine, David Schwab. Shout out to David if you're checking out on social media. But he does a great job with building a community up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a challenge. Like I said, the third year, I finally started to see some success. And it's funny looking back. I remember I got a bronze award or something like that for crossing over $1 million.
Nice.
And this is 2011, 2013, somewhere in that window.
Okay.
Which, I mean, $1 million you can do in
right.
half of a sale now. It's
or one for some agents.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that was probably 18 deals to get $1 million there.
Yeah.
Like it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And that market has changed still.
And
today,
they were celebrating it like that's interesting as well.
Yeah.
So then you came down here, and what was that transition like for you to get plugged in right away?
Moved down here, and I did not want to get back into real estate.
Okay.
Because it had been a grind to get built up to where I was, which was still nothing. And so I'm like,
got to get back to that $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. So what am I going to do? I didn't know. I started working for a company called the Wilbur Group, which is a private VIP services company. So they do corporate logistics, VIP services. Somebody in West Palm wanted to go have lunch in Key West and then come back. So I'd charter a helicopter for them. They'd fly down. We'd set up their transportation, take them to the restaurant, get back in the helicopter, fly back. Boom, there's $20,000. Not an income, but like the cost for a lunch date. So a different level of wealth on people. And then going to NASCAR events and the top 100 Ford dealers, arranging all their transportation, creating events for them. A bunch of corporate logistics stuff.
Okay.
And then and it was going well, and I'm very good friends with the owner of that company still. And then 2017, we were going to have our first child, and I was just looking at the future, and I needed to be able to create some more income opportunities. I was starting to miss the real estate then at that point in time, and I got back into the game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you saw it as like a bigger upside to build a different legacy for the family.
Yes.
Once it became real that there was going to be a family.
Yes, for sure.
On the way. And so I know you're with Realty Experts. Now. Is that who you hooked up with immediately, or was that hopped around?
So at the start, it was the end of 2017. I was with Remax Metro.
Okay. Rick Brown and the crew?
Yep. So I was with them, and I was on a small team with Jimmy Brylink and Sean Byrne. Sean since has them built hotels and whatnot, and Jimmy still has his team, and we're still friends there. About 2020, I left as a solo agent, and that is also, I think, the end of 2019, maybe switched over to Realty Experts.
Okay.
Beginning of 2020, somewhere in that window.
Cool.
Came to Realty Experts.
And I know you broke 20 million, in a year, because it was 2022, I think you said, with over 40, transactions there for the year, which I think was kind of a breakthrough for you.
It was.
Into your best years. So when you think about how that has evolved, right, your business, what are some of the keys that you feel like had to get put into place for you to start to see that level of growth?
One of the keys is time. I mean, I don't always love talking about COVID, but like it was COVID time. My wife was having to work at home. We had 2 kids, and it was helter skelter. Whose job's more important? I have a meeting here. I have a showing here. And I was still taking care of the kids, just essentially doing real estate part-time before that. So we put a plan in place for her to just quit her job and me go all in. And that's when things started really like happening. The end of 2020 was when I actually really started being just full-time agent. That's the only way I make a living.
Gotcha.
And she was able to stop working. So yeah,
it's funny how when that decision is made, that's where everything starts moving, right?
Yeah, and it's scary.
And it's hard.
Scary. Yeah. Like,
no doubt.
There's
no safety net there.
There's no safety net. And still wanting to do the same job for your customers where you don't need to talk them into a bad situation just so you can get a paycheck, so that way you can pay your mortgage next month. So I was super conscious of that because I hadn't needed to prior to that. So that was in my mind a lot, and I'm grateful I've been able to stay in that position.
What has worked best for you, Nate, in terms of just like, by the way, is Nate okay? Do you go by Nathan, whatever? Okay. Yeah. Do you, what's worked for you in terms of just like your pipeline, your lead flow? Do you have certain strategies that you really have focused in on that you love? Has it been 100% just referrals? Which most people, it takes years to get to that level. If that's the case. But what have been some of the strategies that have worked for you?
So when I first started making a little bit of money, I started buying leads. So I bought into Zillow leads, and that was good. I probably broke even on the actual leads in terms of what was purchased and then what closed. But the downstream from that, you hooked up with a couple investors. They give a referral. 10 Zillow closings might actually be 25 closings because of
the network.
What happens after that. So that was big for me then. I only bought leads for a year and a half. I haven't bought leads since the end of 2022.
Okay.
And it was really powerful for me to get that little boost. So that was one thing that definitely, I can't pretend that it didn't play a part. And ever since the beginning, I knew I followed like Tim Ferriss and 4 Hour Workweek stuff. And,
Yeah.
you know, I was looked at Casey Neistat and all these guys producing content online. I'm like, man, like
I still have mixed feelings about the whole 4-hour work week philosophy.
you know, it's there's some good
there's some great stuff in there.
Good principles in there.
There is. Yeah. I don't know if I ever could really buy into like I'm going to work 4 hours this week.
No,
you know?
yeah, I think that's just a tagline to
no doubt.
like,
it does grab attention. So I think that
does.
is the objective, no doubt.
Yeah, it's just like a hook for a video.
Totally.
The top 3 ways to do something.
Something tells me he works more than 4 hours himself.
Yeah, for sure.
No doubt.
So yeah, I just started doing the work, investing back into the business. I stopped buying leads. I would produce my own form of content, you know, taking pictures and videos and where I was eating or what beach I was at, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think even the article talks about your Instagram interest or exposure, followers. There's some reference in there I remember seeing about your Instagram approach. And so do you feel like that's been a good platform for you?
It absolutely has. It absolutely has. So I do get a solid amount of leads and referrals. Like last couple months, I've closed a couple deals strictly that were from Instagram. I have a couple listings where like I got an email. Hey Nate, I've been following you for a couple of years. You know, I feel like I know you, even though you don't know who I am. I need to sell my dad's condo. I got another guy shoot me a DM. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
But those conversations started 2 years ago or 4 years ago.
Sure.
And now it might just start coming through. So, I mean, that's like the game of everything. Everybody wants this quick success.
It's not the way it works.
It just takes time. I mean, you see me posting a video or somebody posting a video and you think, oh man, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to get my license and start collecting $10,000 checks. Like, it might have taken 3 years to do that.
Yeah.
So I just started consistently doing that. Anthony Burtonson, his mom was a customer. She followed me on Instagram and we got connected, sold her a house. Her son has a marketing agency that is there's all sorts of marketing agencies, but they've never actually done it themselves, I feel like. He did it himself, grew a follower account, and then started a business out of it. And so he's helped me tremendously in my content production. We meet 2 or 3 times a month. We shoot a bunch of videos and then he posts them, edits them and all that. So that has been continued growth, but that was really just about 2 years ago. I started having like edited, formalized content being put out there.
So in terms of how your business has evolved and changed even today compared to even just 2-3 years ago, right? From the year that we mentioned, I think it was 2022 that you had this spike year. So are you still focused on just like chasing the individual volume for yourself and for your business? Is your vision different in terms of how you want to try to grow your brand or your organization? Are you thinking that you'll build a team one day? Do you not want to build a team one day? What is your thoughts as to like where that's heading?
Yeah, that's changed recently even. So I am interested in building a team. I have a small property management company, Sampel Properties, and we manage some vacation houses. Some of them I own, and then some for other people. And I'm in the process of I have somebody that works
long-term or short-term rentals.
They're all short-term rentals.
Okay.
One midterm.
Okay.
So I'm in the process though of looking at my time value, and it's easy to see these things. Oh, I can make a few bucks here. Oh, I can do this. But when I just focus on my actual real estate business, which A, makes me the most amount of money, and B, I can actually help the most amount of people, including those people around me to make money. So I'm kind of restructuring and refocusing right now even, and I'm going to be building out a small team.
Okay.
To help me manage the workflow, to get a little bit of my life back.
Sure.
Like I'm a grinder. Like all these hacks and biohacks and life hacks and how to make money. Like I work.
Yeah.
So I still hold open houses. I still do all that stuff. But realizing to really take it to the next level, I need a little bit more support around me.
Do you find that any of the things that you developed through your years of coaching with real estate or with the football team, is there anything that you take from that you think has helped you in the real estate side?
You know, there's a few years we weren't very good, and you get beat up a lot, and you still got to go back to work.
Yeah.
So
the mentality, right?
Being able to persevere through adversity has been huge. Being able to pour into other people, I think, is a really. I have a long-term view about most everything. Sure, it's great to get one customer today, and they buy a house next week, and you get a paycheck. but being able to build relationships and pour into people, answering questions on DMs, having phone calls with people that could be 10 minutes, but they go for 45 minutes. Giving people real value, not expecting anything in return. And then the people around me, like, how can I help them make money and produce their own high quality of life?
Yeah.
I just lost my train of thought.
But when you say your people,
pouring into other people around me on the football team and other coaches, so that they can be successful. Maybe they go to college and play. Maybe playing football is the only reason that they stayed in school.
Yeah.
And so now that same mentality, like pouring into customers and people around me, maybe they don't buy something from me, but I can help them through a situation, and it might come back in 4 years. It might not.
Yeah.
But just really being a source of value for other people.
Yeah, I mean that has to be the heart of a good coach, right? That servant leadership mentality of being able to really serve and give whatever your players need to be able to get them to that next level. And like I said before, I think ultimately the main job is to get the best out of your people, right? That's all you can ask for. And in the real estate world, especially if you do go down this path, right, of building a team, that to me is obviously a direct correlation. If the goal is to build a team of other agents that you're supporting and serving and wanting to get the best, out of them, so that they're serving and producing at the highest levels, which in turn means that their clients are going to be, happy and served as well. Is that when you say you're going to build a team, is that the vision is recruiting agents, or were you referencing more like just building up your admin staff and like the things that you need to operate your business at a higher level?
It would be agents.
Okay.
So I have one admin type person right now, and then the second half of the year, it'll be structured a little bit differently, I think, than a lot of other teams. So I really would like to focus on getting a salaried showing agent, and I'm working out the details. Like this is in the last couple of weeks, this has been developing.
It's early stages.
Yeah, it's very very early stages. But getting somebody that likes the idea of real estate, but also likes the idea of just having a consistent job. So being able to have them on salary with bonuses, and they'll be licensed and be able to show. But like I'm providing deal flow for them, I'm providing coaching, and they get back end support with admin stuff.
Yep, makes sense.
That is the route I'm looking to do. It probably won't be towards the end of the year until I really look at bringing that person on, because I want to have the ability to start them out like they're going to be getting a salary from the jump. Yeah. So I'm still working out the structure of that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that business model, by the way, I've seen other agents take the same path and be very, very, very successful with it.
Yeah.
And so even some of the people that we've had on this podcast have done a very similar, strategy over time.
Hook me up with them so I can pick their brain.
Without a doubt. There's a lot of different people that you can talk to that I know have done well with that. So we can have that conversation for sure.
Awesome.
Let's get a couple minutes here of just some of the personal side for people to get to know you a little bit more who might not know your story at all. So I guess, did you meet your wife at school up in up north?
Yes. Yes. So we graduated high school together.
Okay.
But we weren't like close or anything. We got married 10 years out of high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have 2 kids now?
We have 2 kids, Steele and Sailor.
How old are they?
15 months apart. Steele's 6. He'll be 7 in September, and Sailor is 5. She'll be 6 in December.
There you go. So yours are pretty close too. I have 5 kids, all under 10. And most of them are about 15 months apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
it's one right after another.
So I have 4 sisters,
nice,
and myself, and we're all about a little less than 2 years apart.
Wow, you were the lone guy growing up in that household, huh?
Yes, I was.
That must have been an experience.
It was.
That's interesting. Yeah,
they're all awesome. They're very good.
Were you the youngest?
No, I was the second oldest.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
second
right.
oldest.
Do any of them live around here?
No. So one's in Washington State, 2 are in New York, and one's in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
My parents are still in New York, and they come down here part-time.
Nice. What do you guys do for fun when you're just trying to relax, when you're not jamming at work?
Honestly, hanging out. We like going to the pool. We like going to the beach.
Do you live in St. Pete?
I live in St. Pete.
Okay.
In Seminole now.
Yep.
Going to playgrounds and parks.
Yeah, well, you're limited in your options.
Yeah, that's a lot of what we do. We like going to the beach. We like being in the pool.
Right. Are they into any activities yet?
Both my kids. My son played baseball. My daughter hasn't done any formalized activity yet besides jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So both of them are in jiu-jitsu. That's the only non-negotiable.
I hear that's really, really good for kids. I never did it myself, or I didn't do anything really in the martial arts world. And I've heard some really cool things that doing it early really teaches them a lot.
Let me tell you, so I have a black belt in Kempo karate.
Okay.
It got decades ago. I was 18 to 23, maybe.
Nice.
I stopped training. And I've started jiu-jitsu about a year ago as a white belt fresh, and it's a superpower. It's awesome. So I love going to jiu-jitsu.
I can see that. Just the confidence that it can instill and how to be able to.
It's a great brain break. Like when you're there, like that's the only thing I'm worried about, and it's like pulling on a thread. It's like business. Mm-hmm. You think you learn something about business. Oh, I got this figured out. And then the next thing you know, oh, this happens, and then this happens, and then how you deal with this situation. Yeah. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. I got this move learned. I've got this escape figured out. And then somebody else knows that escape, so they just do this to stop it. Oh, now how do you fix that?
Right. What do I react now?
And there's constantly counters to counters to counters. And it's just like operating business. So I highly recommend it. Gracie Largo, Ben Zapata, the instructor.
Nice.
Really, really good. Yeah.
I feel like we're busy enough with all of the different activities we have going on.
Well, they offer a 6 a.m. class. Like, that's how I could do it. So
what I need is another 6 a.m. class
Tuesdays
to bring the
and
kids
Thursdays,
to.
I'm there. Yeah.
My two boys are really into baseball. I know you mentioned your son plays too.
Yeah.
We're up in Land O'Lakes, though, up in 54.
Okay.
So they do the Land O'Lakes Little League, and there's a thing called the Pryor Farm League. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Really impressive. They have very it's like semi-pro coaches, and then they have the students who are like high school kids and even like college kids who are playing like D1, D2 level baseball that are the coaches of these teams. Cool. And it's like a skill-driven. There are teams of 4. So you have 4 pitchers, 4 hitters, 4 outfielders, 4 infielders, and they rotate during the game. So the kids are always doing something. Okay. Every kid pitches, every kid hits. You get like 8 to 10 at bats per game that way, rather than maybe 2 or 3 in a normal game. So it's been an interesting. They're in that this summer actually for a skill development thing.
That's really cool.
So yeah, it's been an interesting thing to see them kind of get into that.
You have 2 boys and 3 girls?
2 boys, 3 girls. My girls are really into dance. They're following their mom's footsteps on that front.
Okay.
They're All-American Dance Academy. We just had all the big recitals this past weekend. So there's a lot going on. Adding jiu-jitsu to that would be a whole other animal, right? But I can see the benefits though. It makes sense.
For sure.
Couple rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite book or author or seminar maybe that you've attended that you feel like has made a huge impact on you personally or professionally?
That Viktor Frankl book, Man's Search for Meaning, is like, I give copies of it out. That's my favorite book.
Yeah, I have it as well. It's a great one.
Yeah, it really is. So there's all sorts of great business books and things.
Sure.
But that book, because it can translate into any area of life, you can apply it to business, you can apply it to family life, you can apply it to hardships.
You can't really describe a worse hardship than he had to go through.
No,
you can't. And the fact that he was able to, the lessons that he teaches in that book are powerful no matter what somebody's going through. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you can apply it, like you said, to pretty much anything.
For sure.
Any business challenge for sure that you have. So that makes sense. Do you have a favorite movie or TV show?
Favorite movie, The Patriot, Mel Gibson.
Oh, that's a great one.
That's a great.
You might be the first one who's brought that up actually on this podcast.
It's always been one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy.
Better than Braveheart.
You
like the patriotism component, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can relate a little bit more to the Patriot. Yeah.
He's out there yelling freedom. Well, that's the Braveheart one.
That's Braveheart.
That's true.
That works still.
It does. But I love them both. But I feel you. The Patriot one definitely hits you in the heart.
It's a good one. Yeah, it has a little bit of everything. It's got the love. It's got the bravery. It's got the sacrifice.
That's true.
It's got all
and his movies aren't short either.
No, they're not.
It's a commitment.
Yeah, you got to sit down and be ready.
Yeah, no doubt. You got to really be ready for it. It's a weekend commitment for some people anyway.
Yeah.
What else did I have for you? Do you have any favorite? Do you have a favorite food?
Steak.
There you go.
I'm
steak and potatoes,
or just steak.
There you go.
No, I love grilling steak. That's my jam.
That's your go-to.
Yeah, that's my
so if anyone wants to get on your good side, that's the way to your heart, huh?
Yeah, send me a couple
steak membership.
All right, send me a couple
steak membership, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So we'll end here as we're running short on time. I want to make sure we can get you out on time. We'll have to have you back sometime because I'm sure there's other things we could be talking about, especially with your background as a coach. I think there's some fascinating, things that we could have dove into there. But talking about what I would call your legacy question, which is the concept of one day, you'll be sitting on that rocking chair looking back and thinking about what you're most proud of, right? And what you want to be most remembered for as a person. And so what do you think would mean the most to you, Nate, in terms of what you'd want to be most remembered for, what you'd want that legacy to be?
The character of my children ranks very high on the list. Yes, I want to give them a head start. I want to be able to do these things financially. I want them to get good grades. But really, the character and development of my children would probably be the number one thing, because it's cool to build wealth and make money, and I'm an investor as well, so I'm trying to buy houses and have something for them. If they want to be a cop or a firefighter or a teacher in 15-20 years, like, they're not going to be able to afford to buy a house in Pinellas County in a decent neighborhood, but I'll have some of these properties that I can help them with.
Yeah.
But that is still very not materialistic, but that's not
it's surface level.
Inside. Yeah. So the character of my children is big, and I want to be known for pouring into other people. I want to be the rising tide that lifts the boats around me, the other people around me, whether that be financially, whether that be through attitude. I want to be a source of inspiration and something that is attainable for other people, and realize that it takes a lifetime. Like, it takes work. There's no quick thing for anything. Just being able to show up every day, give it your best, and then be able to do it again and again and again, and not lose sight of why you're doing it.
Totally. It's a good answer, man. It's a very thoughtful answer, which I appreciate. I think we've had a lot of that question to a lot of people, and that's one of the better answers I've heard. So I appreciate you sharing. We're going to put a bow on the episode. And so if anybody did want to reach out to you, Nate, and just pick your brain about your story, about how you got things rolling, about your team building process now moving forward, and wanted to just kind of, it's funny how you never really know who's listening, who's watching.
Yeah.
There's always different people that you tend to connect with, right? And so somebody might have just simply connected with your story and wants to kind of, pick your brain a little bit more, get to know you more. What's the best way for someone to reach you?
You can obviously just search my name. You'll find my cell phone number out there. If you shoot me a DM on Instagram, sometimes those get lost. So sometimes even commenting on a picture or a post, and let me know you want to connect. You can, I think there's a call button through Instagram. So it's Nathan_Shirk_real_estate. So Nathan Shirk Real Estate on Instagram. Just hit me up there. Or Google my name and find my cell phone number out there.
There you go. And we'll put that in their description too when we post everything for you. But
awesome.
We're going to end the episode the way we always do, which is to a challenge to the audience. So whether you're watching live via YouTube or via Facebook, or you end up seeing this on any of our many podcast platforms that are out there. If you don't, by the way, subscribe, just click the button so you can subscribe to the Tampa Bay Real Producers podcast. That way you'll be notified every time a new episode comes out, which is every week. We drop a new episode every Friday. And so, as we always say, like, what is one action step that you can take from this conversation today with Nate that can propel you forward personally or professionally? Maybe you've been somebody who's been struggling with some of the mental health stuff that a lot of people talk about nowadays out there. And a lot of what Nate said was the importance of our attitude, right? Our mentality, the whole message here of no bad weather, right? Has that really been the way you've been living when an obstacle hits you or you feel down emotionally? And so possibly just the, that right there could be a step in the right direction. Identifying that I need to take more ownership of my emotions. There's so much great content out there that you can dive into to try to work on that through. I'm a big fan of some of Tony Robbins' content and some of his stuff, which is very much about managing and understanding your emotional side and being able to control that in a positive manner and harness it for good, right? And so I think Nate is a big believer in that from what I can tell. And so, what is it that you can identify with there? Or maybe it's as simple as some business tips that you wanted to pick up, some of the lead ideas that Nate threw out there. Maybe you're somebody who's also in the beginning stages of building a team, and somebody like Nate could be a great resource as well, since he'll be learning and going through some of those early development stages. Or maybe you're a more experienced agent who's done that and been there, and you can share some wisdom to someone like Nate, right? And so whatever it might be, what's one thing you can do to take an action step to be able to move forward personally or professionally family. And if you do that, then the time you invested in watching this episode will be worth it. And that's the challenge we always want to leave the audience with. We, of course, will see you on the next episode of the Tampa Bay Real Producers podcast. We'll see you later. Bye.